February 17th, 2021 CPC meeting to order. Welcome everybody. Thank you. I hope everyone's doing well. So agenda item, there's Michael. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's Mary, actually.
Mary. So agenda item number 1, we have review of the January 13th and January 27th meeting minutes. I know we had tabled the 13th at our last meeting to make sure everybody had a chance to review them.
Oh, I thought they were approved. Okay.
I'm sorry?
I thought they were approved because I think I read that. I thought I read that in the minutes that they were. No, okay, they weren't approved yet. Okay.
So have all the committee members had an opportunity to review the January 13th meeting minutes, and does anybody have any comments or questions?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
How about the January 27th meeting minutes? Has everybody had a chance to review those? Comfortable with accepting those? Any comments, questions on the January 27th meeting minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Welcome, Marco. All right.
Hi, everyone. Sorry for the tardiness.
No worries. We're just starting. So agenda item number 2, we have 2020 remaining 2021 project applicants and applications. Some of these are holdovers from last cycle, and one of them a bit of a hybrid. So we have, not in any particular order, but we have Mayor Field, which is an application from Terry Shepard at Park and Rec, upgrade of the baseball field and the playground for $210,000. We have one Holyoke CDC, $199,101 for creation of owner-occupied 2-family house on Dwight Street, 800 to 808 Dwight Street. MIFA Victory Theater, $100,000 application for mural and wall restoration. And last but not least, Steve Huntley with Valley Opportunity Council, $250,000 for emergency rental assistance. So those are the 4 applications. Before we jump into Q&A and start going through these, so we add those requests up, they total $760,000. We have $449,000 of undedicated funds available. So simple math is there's a $311,000 more in applications than there is funding available. So, you know, we have heard from each of these applicants previously. I don't think, unless committee members would like to hear presentations, I think we're all pretty familiar with them. I would suggest we just kind of jump into a Q&A and maybe just, you know, not necessarily focus on any one project at a time, but just, you know, I think they're all here. We can, you know, ask each of them questions in whichever order jumps up, if that works for people. Unless someone's got a better suggestion, I would think it might be beneficial to do it that way and be able to bounce back and forth between projects as things occur to us. But that's not engraved in stone. I don't feel that strongly about it, just trying to figure out how to efficiently do that. So
Chair, do you think that just for the public record, we could have each applicant just state for the record, like a 1 minute, brief and brilliant, here's how much I'm asking for to do what, and then we can get into Q&A?
Sure, that's, you know, so why don't we do it in the order that that I introduced the 4 projects. So first would be the Mayor Field and Terry, if you want to just give us a 1 minute update, and, you know, give us, and you don't have to, we'll get into some questions. But if you just want to briefly introduce the project, and we'll go from there. So Terry, you're on.
Okay, I'm Terry Shepard, Director of Holyoke Parks and Recreation. This is the second time that Parks has applied for funding to do some upgrades at Mayor Field, which is a very small, right now it's a baseball diamond on Westfield Road. It's basically a 60-foot diamond with a few pieces of aerial equipment that desperately need to come out. We requested $210,000. We're hoping to build a nice playground that's totally accessible, work on the entryway and excuse me, pedestrian access, and hopefully make upgrades to the field as well. And there aren't many playgrounds in that area.
Great, thank you. I don't see, is Michael Moriarty here? Does anybody see Michael? I don't see him either. So let's skip that for now. It doesn't.
You know what? I had trouble accessing the meeting, okay, and that's why I was late. But on my screen, it said my screen, which I don't think it should have, that Michael was waiting. Here it is again. Michael entered the room. He's in the waiting room.
Okay, here he is.
Oh, there
Coming in now.
Okay.
Thank you, Terry, for that. Michael, are you there?
It'll take him a moment.
So let's do this. Let's skip Michael for now. We can circle back to that. So third on the list would be Don Sanders and MIFA. Michael, we're gonna come right back to you.
That's fine. Thank you. Sorry, I'm jumping in a little late.
No worries. Michael, just to bring you up to speed, we have all 4 applicants. We're just asking for like a 1 minute. You know, I already did talk about each of the 4 applications. The committee's familiar with them, and we're just asking for a 1 minute. Then we're going to go to a Q&A on all the projects together, I think. So, okay. So Don, you want to give us a 1 minute on?
Sure. So we're asking for $100,000 towards the restoration of 2 very famous murals on either side of the proscenium arch inside the Victory Theater. The murals are they're almost 50 feet tall on both sides. They're by a WPA artist, a very famous, well-known artist, Vincent Maragliata. And he painted them in 1941 as part of the WPA project. They portray a very timely story, the victory of good over evil. They're quite extraordinary. If anybody remembers seeing them before they were taken down for restoration, they do make an incredible impact, and they will be the major visual interest inside the auditorium of the theater when it reopens. And they're being restored by Vitek Kruta is doing the actual restoring of their oil on canvas, and they're being put back on a wall restored by Evergreen, which is the interior restoration organization that's doing the other decorative interiors of the Victory.
Great, thank you. Stephen, why don't we jump to you, then we'll come back to Michael, give Michael a minute to catch his breath. So do you want to give us a 1 minute, Stephen, on where, you know, just the introduction? You know, don't anticipate our questions. We'll come back, but Great. Just a quick down and dirty.
Steve Hunley, Executive Director of VOC. I think I know everybody on the committee now. We submitted an application for some homeless prevention emergency resources a bit ago. I had requested it be tabled for a few months to see what was going to happen, as there was a eviction moratorium, et cetera, and now we also received some community development block grant funds from the city that we're quickly moving through. We've helped 58 people with that. We've spent about $130,000 of the $248,000 resource we were given. And just want to kind of cue this up as, again, a resource of last resort for folks in case it becomes necessary. And I would request to reduce the number as well. We spoke about that at the last meeting, but I would reduce the request to 50,000 from 250,000 with the idea that the emergency process is available should the need come forward. I'd be back, but this was just really a little bit of an insurance policy to have. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Moriarty.
Thank you. This should be quite familiar since it's the reapplication of what we had submitted last year. It is our hope to build a affordable home ownership opportunity at 800 Dwight Street. And we hope that, actually community preservation funding can become kind of a staple in helping to expand affordable home ownership over the long haul, and that we could be a part of that process. So we are, again, looking for a relatively deep subsidy for the 2 units that you would see here. I think it is, in terms of overall project cost, quite comparable to, I think, what you had approved last year for the Housing Authority. And what we hope is that we're able to continue that kind of work, infill in a neighborhood that can definitely use it, work on creating a 2-family in a design that is compatible with the neighborhood as it exists, and just really looking at the CPA as a resource to follow a legacy that One Holyoke's been a part of for a half a century now, that is very much centered on finding resources to create home ownership opportunities for affordable first-time home buyers, which again would be the outcome we seek here. It would be to someone in an affordability level, and it would ideally be a first-time home buyer.
Mike, how much are you asking for?
I'm in a little bit of an embarrassed position. I jumped right out of my own board meeting to come into this meeting, which is why I was a couple of minutes late. I don't have the file in front of me, and I gave that thing to you like a year and a half ago. I believe the number's 198, but I
saw 2 different. It's basically 199,100, and sometimes it was 199,101 for some reason. So those are the numbers that I've seen.
Yep. That I will defer to that. I knew it was right around there, and I would consider that extra buck a typo.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael. So I would open the floor to committee members to direct questions at any of the 4 applicants, and let's just kind of go through this. And Michael Falsetti, you have a question. You have your hand up. Fire away.
Yeah, this is for the MIFA, for the $100,000 for the mural for the Victory Theater. Mr. Sanders, in terms of the goal of the 46 million, I think it is, if my memory serves me correctly.
Yes, correct.
At this point in time, do you have an approximation of how far close or away you are from that $460 million goal?
Okay, it's 46 million is the total cost of the project, and we've identified 31 million. It's actually gone up a little, but it's 31 million, couple of 100,000 towards the total cost.
So, Mr. Chairman, another question for Don. Don, so I would think, I don't mean to talk like this, but should you not reach that goal for whatever reason, economics, I take it the $100,000 for the 2 murals, and I agree, those murals going on memory are breathtaking, no question. If you don't reach that goal of 46 million, I take it part of the agreement between the CPA and the Victory Theater would be that it would be returned, the $100,000 would be returned to the CPA fund. I presume that's what the plan is.
That's correct. Absolutely.
Stephen, can I, so did I correctly hear you say that you would propose to reduce your ask from today in this cycle from 250 down to 50?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and with the understanding that you can come back to the committee for further funding in the new fiscal year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is that 50 important to you right now? I mean, is it important to the program to have that in the bank?
Not yet, not today. My with the community development block grant money we received, we proposed to help 60 families. We've been able to stretch that. We've helped 58 to date, and we've spent half the money. So today we're feeling okay with how things are going. The concern is if a rent moratorium isn't extended beyond March and there's a tidal wave. That's ultimately what the thinking is at this moment in time. But the courts are backed up through June anyway. So they're, you know, the money we're using now is really to try and maintain relationships between landlords and tenants, keep it so that they're satisfied, and with lenders and homeowners. We've helped 6 homeowners as well through this process. So there's a repairable relationship as folks' personal economies start to level off, hopefully.
Great, thank you. Mimi, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Now, I just wanted to follow up on the earlier question to the MIFA folks. I mean, it's a wonderful project, and I too have fond memories of those murals. So I don't mean this to be like the evil fairy godmother at the christening, but I wonder if you can tell me a little more about how you understand the funds you have identified so far, because that 31 million seems like a great deal of it depends, as I understand it, on the governor's goodwill. And before we freeze any more funding for this project, I think it would be valuable for us to know how realistic it is to think that those funds will be drawn down.
Sure. Thanks, Mimi. I'm always happy to explain that. So the 31 million, working backwards, you mentioned the governor. There is a bond has been authorized of $13 million towards the project. So that's part of the 31 million. There's an additional, and Kathy will correct me if I don't say the exact sums. There is a state historic tax credit that has been awarded and a federal tax credit that has been awarded. And those add up to about $11 million total. There is about $6 million that we have raised in cash from individuals, corporations, etc. There is a $1.2 million pledge from the city. Those are that is basically you know, the components. So your concern, and it's a good concern, the bond is authorized. It's there, it can never go away. The governor has to authorize, he has to activate it. And the whole issue of this very complex funding, which has to do, the tax credits, I think as people know, have been awarded. They've been already approved by the Department of the Interior. They come, it's like the story of the millionaire. He comes to the door with the check. It comes when the doors open. So that's why it's complicated funding. It would be unlikely for the bond to, it can't disappear. So if
I may, you know, the bond has been authorized, but as I understand it from conversations with our legislative delegation, the fund is nevertheless completely dispersible at the governor's will and only at the governor's will. You know, it is not a grant, it's not money you guys have in hand. There have been efforts by our delegation to try to get even part of it released, and they have fallen on deaf ears. And I suppose my question is what reason you have to think that, you know, this is anything but a hope. the money is there doesn't mean that it's ever going to be,
Right.
coming
No,
out.
I understand. It's very important that it is characterized. It's not just a hope. It is a law. It has been authorized by the legislature.
The
And
bond
yet,
has been authorized. It doesn't mean that the money is going to come out. There is
it
nothing.
means that the money has been authorized to be spent on this project, which would be very hard to imagine as all the project comes together, that this governor or any other governor would be reluctant to release those funds. And it's another good reason for us as a community to be constantly sending the signal to the governor's office of how important that money is to this project, because the project is so important for the economic development of the city. Hope is that it's not a hope. The money has been authorized.
Yeah, but that means nothing in terms of its actual release. And
I'm afraid I can't disagree with you until it's actually on the table, but it does not mean nothing. It took a lot of effort to get $13 million authorized for this project, so I wouldn't characterize it as nothing.
no,
Mr. Sanders, how much did you say is in private funding?
About $6 million.
Thank you.
And I see Mr. Falsetti. Are you raising your hand?
No, I'm just swinging my ruler.
Okay, then I yield the floor, Mr. Chairman.
You're muted, Kip. You're muted, Kip.
Thank you. Michael Moriarty, let's talk about your duplex on Dwight Street. If I recall, there was an issue previously with community garden there that you made some arrangements to relocate. Is that correct? Am I remembering that properly?
No, I think that's a different project. There's not a community garden located at 800 Dwight Street.
Sorry. Okay, never mind. I withdraw my question then.
I'm thinking of the Alpine.
Maybe that's what it is, right? So Izzy, you have your hand up.
I have two questions. I have one for Mike and one for Terry. The one for Mike, I guess, is around just like the whole duplex building, right? Like I know One Holyoke has done this for a while. So my question is, like, can you elaborate, like, or that's not even a question. It's just like to see if you can elaborate on like how One Holyoke has done this in the past and how it could help reflect the community in the neighborhood. So, because I know that living in the flats, I know that One Holyoke helped reshape like the way the flats kind of looks now off of building the duplex homes. So if you can elaborate a little bit on that so that people can see or have a better idea.
Yeah, and actually it's something where, it can be a strength or it can be a problem, right? I will say to you that there's a series of duplexes around the corner on Beach Street that were before my watch. I don't love them particularly. They've got brick facades. They're okay, but it sort of looks like broken teeth going down there now because there's blocks on either side of them. I've made it a practice when we have designed homes on my watch that I really do walk around the neighborhood and look at sight lines and look at styles. What I'm not going to be able to do is recreate a late 19th century home, and actually competent architects don't suggest that you try to do a recreation. But what you can do is make a lot of design decisions that are very consistent with what you see in the immediate area. And I would suggest that when we made the decisions for what we placed over on Chestnut Street in the Hampshire Street area, we tried to be as reflective as we possibly could with the Hope 6 design that was immediately across the street. That we did a pretty sensitive design over on Harrison Avenue that kind of fit what a lot of the houses in the Chapin and Myrtle Street area look like. I mean, obviously it's newer than everything there. It's of a slightly different design, but it's in keeping. That's very much what we have in mind here. And for a duplex, that actually makes a lot of sense in that immediate area. If you turn the corner and go up Beach Street or walk up Dwight Street just a block in the direction, going westerly, you're going to see houses that are that are duplexes or that were, you know, single family homes with a porch in front of them. And we can find designs that just fit in there like a glove. And that's very much what our intention is.
And my question for Terry is, when was the last time Mayor Field had some TLC or it got remodeled or had some,
oh my God, decades
made, right? And then have residents in the past tried to like push the issue to try to remodel or get some work done at the field, and why hasn't the city invested any money, or not purposely not invested the money, but like, you know,
minor improvements have always been made along the way. New player benches, new fencing, some that's for safety reasons. Old equipment, the play equipment that's there never should have been installed. I think that was installed about 20 years ago. And it shouldn't have been installed where it is. Part of the reason is it's not pedestrian friendly. We've looked at a million different ways to see if we could make anything safer, but there's still not a whole lot that can be done. And it is just used for younger kids baseball, younger girls softball, and sometimes even a soccer field. So it's our hope to install a small playground for kids 8 and under, because there's very little in the neighborhood. The nearest playground, I think, is Vic Man School, and that's not in great shape either.
Terry, do you think there's demand for that park? Will people use
it? I do. I think people use it when there's not baseball going on as passive recreation. I see a lot of dog walkers there and just parents with children tossing a ball, or yeah, I do. I think younger families would enjoy it.
Good. Mike Sullivan.
I think Marco had his hand up before me.
I didn't see Marco. Whichever, you guys work it out.
Marco,
I'll just jump in real quick on Mayor Field. Terry, was there a parking issue there before? I decided to try to go look on Google Maps real quick, but
there's no parking there. There's always a parking issue. Every year, Holyoke Youth Baseball plays there. It's one of their home fields.
Well, is that creating, like, is it possible to work out a plan where at least you can make a small parking area that's compatible with the uses there? Like, it doesn't quite feel right to have, I mean, I don't know if that's normal to just have people parking along the street and then little kids. And so it just doesn't, having a park is great. I want to have a great park, but it doesn't quite feel right to keep putting money into something that maybe isn't quite right, or maybe the park needs to be tailored to suit its needs.
That's always been my concern. We could take a small piece of land and do a small parking lot. It probably would interfere with the playing field or make a playground smaller.
Yeah.
My hope,
maybe it just has a playground and not the field or something.
Correct.
Like somebody to study a layout that is, excuse me, I didn't mean to talk over.
Sorry.
I just would repeat and then I'll stop. Just a use for that property that is compatible with, you know, the resources that are feeding it, you know, so that the parking is right. Or thank you.
Honestly, there's not a lot of organized play there anymore. Holyoke Youth Baseball has adopted another field at Dean, and they're trying to make that into more of a premier field. Holyoke Youth Soccer uses it sparingly, so I don't think there's going to be a lot more league play, mostly because of the parking, and some of the sports even have less participants. But my hope, I wouldn't want to make it a destination park like Community Field and hopefully Springdale Park. We're working on that. Those are the parks where people do drive to park and kind of spend the day there. I think Mayor Field should be a neighborhood park, and it should be more of a pedestrian park where kids could walk to. So there's not a whole lot we could do. Yes, you're right. If we took away the field, we could do an adequate space for parking. That wouldn't interfere with the neighbors either.
Mike Sullivan.
Yeah, thanks. I've just got a couple of questions for Don Sanders about the two murals. You said those have been removed or in storage. Where are they in storage now?
They're at Gateway City. VTech took them down, and they've been in a couple of places, but currently they're at Gateway City Arts in the basement. I mean, very carefully.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So Mike, and these are just kind of what ifs. Don't take me wrong on any of this, but
it's okay.
Yeah. What if ultimately the rest of you couldn't achieve the rest of the funding, and the project wasn't to go forward? If, and this is, you know, a bunch of big what ifs, if the murals were restored, would the Victory, the MIFA be amenable to them becoming the property of City Hall or Friends of City Hall or something like that, so that at least the city could maybe preserve them, be it in City Hall itself or the War Memorial or some other building in town, since they are of such value and historical significance?
It's an interesting question, Mike. You know, I have to preface it by saying, of course, it's a hypothetical question because I believe the money will be raised. And I believe that what Winston Churchill said, which is that the impediments argue themselves. So I don't think anything other than they will be back there in their wonderful place. But if it should happen, I think it would be very interesting to think how I think they would definitely be saved by and kept somewhere in the city. I mean, they're pretty big.
I'll be even more blunt, right? If that was to be part of the terms and conditions of it, would you be objecting to it?
I don't think so. We'd have to talk about it. One of the issues is, of course, the historic tax credits are based on the Massachusetts Historic Commission, the experts that took 4 years to assess the interior of the building, etc. The tax credits are awarded based on everything going into the building as they wish it to. So, you know, and the murals are part of that. So it would be some, I mean, if we haven't raised the money and we don't spend the tax credits, they're not, you know, there isn't, I don't know. It is very hypothetical, but as far as whether we as MIFA, we would be very concerned that such valuable and wonderful, you know, artwork for Holyoke would go someplace, I'm sure. And I certainly would be open. I would speak to my board and, you know, get some advice about that. But yeah, I would say it's a smart idea.
But by no means am I speaking for the rest of the committee nor for the city council. This is my own opinion.
Yeah.
But were we to spend this money for them to go anywhere or become anything but the property of the taxpayers of Holyoke, to me would be out of the question. So.
One of the issues is, as we said earlier, the only reason why the money would be released would be as if all the money was there. So the money would not have been spent ahead of time. I mean, they can't be done, you know, ahead of time and kept someplace and then moved somewhere else. I mean, it would be another, you know, that would be another issue to deal with.
All right, I'm all set then, Kip.
Anybody else question? Mike Falsetti? Sorry.
Steve Huntley, in today's, the Springfield Union for today, the president announced that the moratorium on evictions was going to extend through June. Were you familiar with that article at all?
I didn't see the article and I haven't seen the formal announcement yet, outside of the newspaper announcement, but the rumor was it was coming.
Yeah, he announced it today. I mean, it's in today's Springfield Union that the evictions and all that moratorium is now till the end of June. And also, about a month and a half ago in the Springfield Union, it had an article that $410 million in rental assistance the feds gave to Massachusetts. Are you also applying to that?
So that is the RAFT program, and we are helping folks with applications to the RAFT program. It's about a 20-page application to do it. So we're working with folks. We've sent over 59 applications for the RAFT program, and that's what's helping our money go further, is that we're maintaining the relationship with the landlord tenant, and then the RAFT program will come in with up to $10,000 per family to hopefully solve their issues. By family, I mean household. I used the wrong quantity expression there. I apologize. So we're well aware of it. The biggest problem is we have applications we've submitted to wayfinders that are dated October that they haven't looked at yet. And landlords with huge balances due are getting less and less patient with it being February. So we're doing the best we can to hold the relationship together until the wayfinders resource can be made available. They keep saying they're 8 weeks out, so we're hopeful that in the next couple of weeks they'll be catching up. They being wayfinders.
So there is a possibility you may not need the $50,000. Would that be correct?
Absolutely. There is a possibility we won't need the $50,000 this year. Yes. Yes.
And the more, well, okay. So wayfinders, you work, so the money that wayfinders is distributing is the same $460 million, the RAF program? Or is that two parallel, or is that two pots of money you're going after on your own and then through wayfinders?
So wayfinders is awarded the whatever share of that federal money plus some additional state money that's part of it for the RAFT program and some ancillary programs that I just call the RAFT program. I don't understand the difference. It's one application, so that's how I look at it. We also have the Holyoke Community Development Block Grant resource, and that's what we've been doing to try and keep relationships together and take care of some of the smaller. We try and put in as little as possible because there's this huge federal resource, as you're absolutely right, Mike. And we want to be stewards of the Holyoke resources that are meant for Holyoke, and keep them available for the next tier of need should the federal money dry up or whatever. Really, one of the bigger concerns is how slow it is to get the RAFT resource out.
Mimi, you had a question?
I think it got answered. So in the interest of time, I will not repeat it.
Okay, great. Michael Moriarty, I have a question for you. It's always interesting to me when we're funding something that creates job opportunities also. So if you're building a two-family house, who's working there? Like who does the construction work? Or what kind of jobs are we talking about?
So it's a mixed bag unless we move away from the modular model and go to a stick built. And here's why. We like the modular because what happens is the materials show up constructed, we place it on a foundation, and we alarm it up that day. And in an urban environment, you have less materials walking away, you have less issues with, the ongoing liabilities of an open work site and all of that. But there are no modular factories in Holyoke. And so we have a relationship where we've done most of our work with a company called Westchester Modular in upstate New York. We, often need to go out and do some bidding. And, the other modular companies are located in that can deliver to us in a reasonable amount of time, are everywhere in New England and a couple going out as far as Pennsylvania. That's about half of the cost of the project, and that would not be local money. I've got to put that right out there. However, we are hiring for building the foundation, doing the excavations, doing the electrical hookup. There's about half of the project cost in finish work once the rough house is placed on site on foundation. Those are all people that live within a 10-mile radius of Holyoke exclusively. And for the most part, We put preferences on folks who have an 01040 zip code in their business address. We also do have some local folks that we can hire as either employees or contractors directly of our subsidiary Riverside Development Corporation. That's part of the One Holyoke umbrella, where we have a licensed general contractor and that has most of our apartments maintenance crews. So they also provide a great deal of the carpentry work, the basic site cleanup, some of the core things like that. So if we went stick built, it would actually be a lot more locally. It adds some logistical challenges. We find the cost to be basically a wash. We don't do the modulars because we save a particular amount of money. But I can tell you that I can be flexible on that point to keep more jobs locally if that was a condition of the funding. I do not have a bias against doing stick built, but you got to understand some of the lumber might walk away.
Well, I hadn't anticipated that answer, but it's a wise one, and I wouldn't personally want to push you towards that, but I think it's important to even understand. I mean, we're talking about a $199,000 CPA application on a project with estimated $390,000 expenses. So, half of that is a lot of work for local people.
And I'm not only am I sensitive to that, but I'm actually open to it because there's an opportunity with CPA funding that's a little different than a lot of our traditional funding. For instance, when I get federal monies for this work, I have to do something called Section 3 certification, which means that, I still certify. I try to focus on local minority women-owned businesses and, provide opportunities and preferences in that area. But it's pretty loose and it's not strictly construed. One of the nice things about CPAs, it doesn't have that same degree of regulatory oversight, which means if it's the only subsidy, I can work very closely with you guys on delivering the values that you have for CPA funding, keeping that money local. It is coming from our local property taxes. So that's right. If on the other hand, it's a partial funding and I do reach some of that federal funding, that will immediately lock in all of the federal regulations, which means I have to dance to that piper to the same extent. So I lose some of the flexibility your funding alone would offer. And that's why I seek all the subsidy coming out of this source.
So just to follow up on that last point, you have the remaining funding that's required to do this project. If we give you 199, is it going to be contingent upon you raising the other funding, or it's there?
No, it's there. We have a reserve of approximately $500,000 available right now for projects that are on our radar screen, and we have a very low level of debt, so I'm able to access bridge loans or equity loans to get this. The remainder mostly comes back to us by way of selling the house.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? So I have one more. Well, can I ask you a question first and then you can ask me?
Yeah, I don't have a question. I just want a statement, I guess.
Okay, so, well, go ahead, because it may answer my question. I may not have to ask it.
It may. Last year, I was asked to cut the project, some of the expenses of a new park playground. And we did by quite a bit. I think we got it down to about 160, but it was just focused on constructing a playground. A large part of my request is for the playground surface. It's called poured-in-place rubber, and it is a rubber surface. It's wonderful. It's the safest and best thing to have, but it's wildly expensive. So I worked with the city engineer, and we cut a lot of the poured-in-place rubber out and added wood chips. So that cut an enormous amount off of project cost. So I'm very prepared to do it again too. or scale down the project.
Okay, so that kind of leads a little bit into the question that I was going to ask, and kind of following up on, I think, some of the points that Marco was making. It seems to me that that we might benefit from some master planning of that park that might include, you know, parking, might not. But I also kind of heard, you know, we're talking about upgrading the baseball field, but it may not be really getting used. We're talking about a soccer field, but it's only sometime. And so what I was searching for was maybe there was a part of the park that we could do, you know, or that you could do, and then we could do some kind of planning around that. And maybe, I know it's not the way an architect would do it, Marco, but maybe we do focus on, you know, the playground, the kind of something that we know we would want to see on that property, and then maybe, you know, not fund upgrading of the baseball. I know you're going to do that internally, mostly with your costs anyway. So we may not be talking about saving much money. I'm just.
You know, I'm glad you said that, because I think you're absolutely right. I don't think it's going to be used for much. Oh, Izzy's here, or he was here. I don't think Holyoke Youth Baseball is going to be using that field for much longer, because they've moved their operations mostly down to Dean. Soccer would only be used by the little kids, the sidekicks, because it's not a regulation size field. So my guess, and it really is only a guess, is in a few years, it probably would be more of a passive recreational park, like picnic tables and.
If I could say,
oh, Izzy is here. Good. Hi, Izzy.
I'm on the board for the youth girls softball league.
Yep.
I think if the boys don't use that league, then we would be interested in that park, because the girls softball league the girls barely have any parks to play in that are geared specifically for their type of play.
Yeah.
It's a different type of game at the end of the day. If the boys are not going to be using it, and you guys are kind of suggesting, right?
Yeah.
Eliminate a baseball field that I played on when I was a little kid, and there's like 100,000 other people that played on them as a little kid too as well. I agree with some of the points that Marcos made though, with regards to parking, because I played there as a kid, and I get it. I totally get all that. I know I have friends that live in the neighborhood, and they brought the idea to me about getting the field redone, the whole thing done. But I am also like, I hear the whole concept of making it like focusing more on the playground part, because it kind of makes sense. If we can't provide the actual parking there, then looking at how we can try to like make it a place where it's more accessible for everyone, right? And safely accessible for everyone. That would be it. But with regards to it being used, if the boys are not going to use it, I'm pretty sure the girls are going to want to use it on like for them, because they had Ian White, and Ian White got taken away from them. Now they got moved to Crozier. It's pandemic season right now, so nobody's playing anything. But Mayor Field is an isolated field, which gives it more of a real baseball field vibe versus any other park we have for that age group. Every other park is shared with other places, and none of the other parks have an actual fence where you can hit a home run. Yeah. Merrifield actually does. That's probably the only Holyoke that we have.
Into the road. Go back to safety issues. Yeah.
But that's I guess that's my nostalgia took over. I'm sorry. But anyways, yeah.
Anybody else have any comments or questions that they want to make at this point on any of the applications that are in front of us?
Let me just let me just say thank you everybody for all the clarification. It's been great to hear about the projects in depth. And Mayor Field, I love the neighborhood concept. I love that kids can ride their bikes there, and the younger kids have a place to play, and also the softball dynamic of it all. On Mike Moriarty's project, I wish and I hope for all new housing that comes into Holyoke is done in a fashionable way, because rather than just throw up housing that fits, I want housing that goes in that makes people want to come here and for people who live in that community to have a real pride in where they live, not just a house. So I have a little bit of a concern there. And that's it.
Amy, you wanted to add something?
Oh, I just was remembering how in previous meetings, as Terry mentioned, the committee asked for an alternative reduced request. So I was wondering if that's something that the committee wants these applicants to submit.
I think they gave us some good ideas on that tonight.
Is anybody interested in reducing their request?
I mean, yeah, we heard that from Stephen for his, but
Right.
I'm not saying people have to say it on the spot, but I'm just saying that might be a good thing because I don't know if, as it stands, if there would be enough money.
Well,
okay. Well,
So-
and further to that procedurally, I'm breaking in here basically because I think that both Meg and I have other commitments that are about to start at 7 p.m. And I was kind of figuring that I would power through this by using 2 screens and frantically switching back and forth. I don't know that that's really an ideal way to proceed. And if we are going to ask for instance, revisions to the Mayor Field proposal, or for our applicants to consider reducing their asks, I wondered whether the committee might be amenable to scheduling a follow-up meeting for next week or the week after and leaving things here for tonight. I know we have contracts to go over and we should go over them soon, which would argue for, if we do this, setting up another meeting very quickly. But you know, I know that it would make life easier for Meg, and it would certainly make things simpler for me if I was only paying attention to one discussion at once.
Get that.
So,
Yeah, I think that Mimi's voice, especially in going over contracts, is important.
Yeah, are you saying you're both going to have to leave before we go over that?
Well, I would have to switch back and forth, and you know, you would not have my full attention.
do we lose a quorum if 2 leave? I'm just not suggesting, I just want to make, we may not have the option. 1, 2, 3. No, we would still have a quorum, right?
But Meg won't be able to take minutes.
Well, I'm not arguing we keep going. I just wanted to make sure, if you're 2 were leaving and we didn't have a quorum, there's nothing left to even discuss. So, so I mean, so let me just ask that last question and get an answer, and then let's make a move, okay? So is there any interest on any of the applicants' part, other than Steve Huntley, in reducing their ask? And that maybe it's unfair to put you on the spot and to actually ask for an answer to that, but think, and unless it's a no, then just say no. But if you want to think about it, why don't I give you the opportunity to respond to that? You know, I want some time, yes, no. Michael Moriarty.
So, you know, as I said, I can pivot if I have less than 100% of my ask. Okay. If it's half of my ask, I can seek other resources. That will be delay. That will compromise my ability to work exclusively with the CPA committee on things like design, local hiring, and so forth.
Right.
But can certainly work with that. I would say anything less than 50% of my ask really would cause me to question the viability of this as a particular project, and I'd probably be looking to move on to something else.
Okay. Don or Terry, you want to chime in at all?
I will. Parks, we would be very pleased and could do very well with about 160. And that would just be to construct a park playground, hopefully with a shade structure and a few benches and a walkway to get there.
Okay, and that doesn't get any work for Izzy's softball field, right?
No, no.
That's not my softball field. That's the community softball.
It's the girls.
Don't even say that
Very softball. Don, you have anything you want to add in there?
Sure. I mean, we're always, you know, I can't say anything specific, but we, you know, I really have to say that the support of the CP project is so important to create the groundswell for everybody in the state to know that Holyoke wants the Victory open. And of course we would, you know, I couldn't say a figure right now, but we would be happy to look at it.
But what are people's thoughts here? We want to adjourn for today as we are and come back in a couple weeks when everybody can give their full attention to the contracts and to deliberating on these outstanding applications. That kind of the will of the committee? Or do we want to keep going with, we still have a quorum? You know, what are people thinking?
I think if folks want to continue a little bit, that's one thing, but I don't know if we should do the contracts without Mimi's full attention.
I agree.
So just to be clear, what we're suggesting is we continue to talk about this agenda item, but not go any further. Mike Falsetti.
Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, this is an entirely different item. The Lady Liberty contract, if it's possible this evening, if we could vote on it, but that's it for contracts, just that one. It was item 4.
Okay.
It was item 4 on the agenda. It was the review and approval of Lady Liberty contract, just that one item.
Okay.
If it's okay with everybody, could we just do that one if you guys have time?
Okay, so generally what would we, you know, we weren't committed to making any votes tonight on the applicants Q&A. I think we went through that agenda item, right? Everybody's comfortable that, you know, anybody have anything else they want to add? Any of the applicants, any of the committee members have a comment that they want to make before we leave this agenda item for now? And what we'll do is add it to our agenda for our next meeting and take it up at the beginning of that meeting. And likely we'll take some votes for recommending any of the projects, if any. Everybody good? Everybody had everything they wanted to say? All right, so let's leave that agenda item then. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, applicants. You don't have to hang around for our quick discussion of the Lady Liberty, but you're welcome to.
Thank you then. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Stay warm.
Kip, do we want to talk about a potential rescheduling before Mimi is walking away?
Sure.
Well, I'm sticking around. I'm just not sticking around with my full attention. And I've just told them that I'm going to be at least 10 minutes late, so.
Okay, great.
Mr. Chairman, I ask again, can we take the Lady Liberty contract next?
Yes, so that's what I'm doing. I'm looking at my agenda. So contract, so we're gonna table, we're not gonna address agenda item number 3, which did not include Lady Liberty, but we're gonna jump to a review of the Lady Liberty contract, agenda item number 4. All right, is that good with everybody? All right. Amy, do you wanna walk us through that contract? I have, everybody have it?
Yes.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, well, I worked on this, you know, well, with Mimi, and this should be the same as what was originally drafted, except for these sections. Number 5, which we can all turn to number 5 under term, which, let's see, specifies that all the work described in this grant must be completed within 6 months of the execution of this agreement. And then number 8 And I believe the public bidding process is already done for this, right, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah. And number 8, G, I believe it is, under conditions.
E on this one.
Oh, it's E, right? Where it says, again, it mentions the dates about if the conditions of this grant agreement are not met within 6 months from the execution of this agreement, or in the event that a term extension is granted pursuant to paragraph 5 above, within 12 months from said execution, this grant will terminate. Because I guess 5 also mentions that a 6-month extension to the deadline is possible, without having to go back to city council.
Yeah, basically all the edits from when you looked at this contract last are to make sure that in the event that an extension is needed and we vote to allow it, there's no conflict with anything else in the agreement. There's no risk of it terminating anyway. Everything, every place the dates are mentioned, they say the same thing.
Yeah, and so the last place is 14 under termination, where again it says that the project must be completed basically within 6 months, and that it can be if an extension is granted, it should be done within 12 months.
Okay. Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Any comments? Anybody have any comments or concerns about those part or any part of the agreement, but particularly those? So what do we want to do? We want to make a motion to approve that agreement? Mike Falsetti, you have your hand up.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, excuse me. I'd like to approve, make a motion to approve the contract as stated.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
So do we also want a motion to authorize our chair to execute it?
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
Favor? All in favor of me signing it?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to me signing it? All right, so ordered. Mike, you got that?
Yes.
So working for everybody, that we got the timing done for you, and we'll schedule. When do we want to meet again to take up the rest of this agenda? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
I think the sooner the better.
2?
Mr. Chairman, March 10th is a Wednesday, and the following Wednesday is St. Patrick's Day. So I think probably if it's okay with everybody else and the chairman and everybody here, is how does March 10th, a Wednesday, appear?
So that's 3 weeks, right? 1, 2, 3. Does that work for everybody?
Well, make it the 3rd. I mean, if you guys.
I think we should probably do it the 3rd if everyone can make it, just so we're not holding anybody else up.
I agree.
Sure.
Yeah, that would be good for me too.
Okay, yeah. So we'll schedule our next meeting for March 3rd.
And just before I make that formal motion, I feel like I ought to ask Amy if there are any particular contracts, since we did the last one so quickly, that are delayed to the point where if they just have those date changes from the last time, we can just go over them and authorize them fast.
There are 2 other contracts, which I also sent everyone. The thing with the Lady Liberty is that I think it had already been signed, so it was more like we really wanted to get that done, but the others haven't yet been signed by the parties, but they are pretty simple to look at. It's Armour and Company and the Holyoke merry-go-round.
Yep.
So we could look at those same sections and just make sure they're what everybody agreed on right now if you wanted.
Yeah, well, we haven't looked at those as a committee yet, though, have we?
Oh, like the entire contract?
Yeah, because...
Oh, probably. Well, I don't think you've looked at anything thoroughly as a committee. Yeah.
Okay, then I take it back. If there are no more emergencies, I would move to reschedule the rest of this meeting and whatever new comes up for March 3rd, which is 2 weeks.
Mr. Chairman, Amy, these contracts, both for the, I mean, if you guys, whatever's the will of the committee, but really the merry-go-round and the armor company, they're kind of, there's not much, I mean, they're fairly complete. And it's a matter of time in extensions, but it's not so substantive that we couldn't vote on it this evening if you guys want, if you guys have the time. I mean, they're not that, there's nothing jumps out at you that's so extraordinary that, oh God, we got to revisit this and rethink it. I'm not so sure I think it's just a matter of extensions. Amy, Mimi, your thoughts? I mean, I don't, there's not much to that.
I think we really need a process by which we've just started to say we're going to review contracts.
Yeah, fine. And there's not much to review. I mean, it's
but that might be your perception of that. But to someone that's not familiar with contracts, right? Like, I would love a process by which we walk through a contract.
Yeah, and the thing is, Amy put together these really wonderful cheat sheets for the contracts, and they basically give us a framework for looking at the places where they're going to vary from one agreement to another, with the exception of the really strange ones. And every so often there's going to be something that we just have to read line by line. I think that all of these before us tonight are simple, but having just, Amy's just given us this framework and this process, and I hate to rush her through for this first time. I think Lady Liberty was different because we had seen it once before and you did have some urgency there.
Okay, whatever is the will of the board.
Well, I mean,
if there are no more emergencies, I'm happy to stop here.
Right. And
yeah, not really getting, I guess maybe if there was one that might be where I know the applicant is asking a little bit more than the other, it is the merry-go-round. More than I've heard more from her than Armor and Co. But I still think that they would be probably okay with a few more weeks. I don't know.
Well,
we take 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Well, the merry-go-round we did review once because that is just an extension. So maybe we should just do that one and then call it done for tonight.
Beautiful. So moved.
So now I have to go look for the merry-go-round contract.
Do you want to walk through it? Or have people
So
read?
One difference with this one, besides the dates, is that it does have that optional disbursement arrangement, which we already discussed, where if it's a hardship for a private, applicant to have to be reimbursed, they can arrange for a different system. So you'll see that. It says optional disbursement arrangement, but other than that, and that's already been agreed on and you've all voted on that. It's again, number 5, the term, which says that it must be done in 8 months from the time of the execution, and that a 6-month extension is allowable if approved by the committee without having to go to city council. And then number 8, the restrictions under G, letter G. It says again 8 months, and that the full amount, if the extension is granted, would be 14 months because 8 plus 6 is 14. And then number 14, the termination, says again the same thing. 8 months, 14 months would be the total if an extension is granted. So those are the differences. It's just like Mimi said, it's more consistent throughout the contract. What the terms are.
Make a motion to approve the merry-go-round contract.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody want to make another motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Izzy's getting 2 votes in on each of these.
Hey, there you go. There you go.
Favor?
Aye.
Good night.
All right.
On what did we say was the date? March
3rd.
March 3rd.
March 3rd. Take care, everybody.
You too.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.